Welcome to Women in Power Active, an initiative started by UR Sportswear to empower women to find their own active adventure. I'm your host, Jacalyn Gross. Today we are doing a race report. I recently raced the Olympic mountain trail races. They had a 100K, a 50K, a 25K, and a 25K ruck, where the person or participant would carry like a 20 to 30 pound weight on their back of some sort, and do the 25K with that on their back. So very challenging. The 100K and the 100K and the 50K both had prize money for first, second, and third. So those were probably bigger races. I didn't see them because they happened the day before, and only the 25K and the 25K ruck was on Sunday, which is when I raced. It sounded like it was successful, and I hope that everybody had fun out there. So that drew more of the participation. The race that I did was smaller. We did the race at 8 a.m. where the ruck started at 7 a.m. Going into this race, I had some unfortunate events. So some of you know my appendix ruptured a little over a year ago, and the recovery, maybe I'm a little under a year for the recovery point because it took a really long time for it to heal. And then I got my wisdom teeth out the early part of this year, and then I had gotten an infection. Also, I had a Achilles issue because I had taken this can happen to you, so I think this is why, but I was wearing inserts that were really stiff, and then for a couple years, and then I took them out because I don't really like them and I didn't think that I really needed them. I essentially got them because I have arthritis in my toe, but it's not that much, I guess. So anyways, I didn't need them. I didn't want to be wearing them, so I took them out of my shoes, but because they were so stable, and then I introduced a bunch of instability into my feet and ankles, they had to compensate for a lot more than they were used to, and so they got upset, and I got Achilles tendonitis from that. So I think what I should have done is done more foot strengthening things before that, and really slowly did it, which I thought I slowly did it, but I got a tendonitis. So anyways, I signed up for this race a while ago while I was still recovering from my appendix rupturing, just wanting to get back into a race, or maybe a little bit after it ruptured and I was starting to feel better. I signed up for the race, so not knowing that I was going to have Achilles issues and this infection and all that stuff, so way in advance. And then I was reduced my mileage, and I wasn't doing workouts before this race. So I didn't feel super great about going into it, but I knew that, I signed up for it. I should do it. It'll be a good adventure. And the reason I chose this race was that it had nearly 4,000 feet of climbing. And I wanted to use that elevation climbing to know if I was going to be ready to race a 50K. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. I just kind of got to the race and was not super trained. I had done maybe 45 miles a week and no 6 days a week and no workouts. So I just was not ready to race. Not something that I would normally do. So have my Achilles issues, and it's not getting better. Had a weird infection, so was feeling super fatigued. I don't know if anybody has experience with that, but I just felt really tired. It took me a while to realize that I had an infection, and then it was of course painful, and then I'm running, and then I'm feeling kind of crappy when I'm running. So I didn't really realize I had that infection until later, and then I just was very proud of myself. I, was like, there's an issue, and I was very persistent with it. And then at a certain point, they had to actually end up opening up my mouth again and like digging around in there and clearing out the infection. Really gross. Anyways, it did help. And so I felt like much better after that, like almost instantly. But I still had my Achilles issues, so still wasn't doing workouts. And then at that point, I kind of was like, this race is going to be what it's going to be. Like, my training is not what I wanted it to be, but like, I also didn't want to not run it because, you paid all that money. And so you're like, I don't want to not race this. But then it's also like, it doesn't matter. But I was still like bummed because I was like going to be in a race where I knew I wasn't going to do very well. And so it's like one of those things, like this would be one of my top nightmares as like a collegiate athlete, of like showing, like you'd have that dream that you like showed up to a race and you weren't ready and like you couldn't get your spikes on quick enough and like all that stuff. That would be like one of your stress dreams, like that. It essentially feels kind of like a stress dream when you're going into it. And I know that it doesn't ultimately matter, but it matters to me, and I wanted to do well. Like, I just wanted to do well. And so I was not feeling confident going into it, and nor should I have. Like, I was not in shape. But I've also been very appreciative of myself because, like, I have had this Achilles issue for so long, and it's been slowly getting better, and I've been strengthening my ankles. Like, I had been working on it with like a massage therapist who had been doing a really good job. And Dustin from New Roots, shout out to him. But he had found out like right before the race, like the massage I got before the race, he found out that like my ankle was really bound up. So he had like massaged that. And so the day before the race, I felt absolutely terrible. Like, my Achilles was really inflamed and really painful. So I like got back from my like 20-minute shakeout and was talking to my coach and was saying like, hey, I don't know if I could race or even run this because it already like hurts quite a bit. And I remembered Dustin telling me like, okay, well, this will, like, you're not racing tomorrow, right? And I had told him no, and I wasn't. It was Friday night I got the massage. Saturday night was the shakeout, and then Sunday was the race. So I had a massage that Friday, and I was like going into that Saturday run after being like, I was walking around all day. We were stopping and going and sitting in the car and all of that stuff that irritates your Achilles. So then when I went for my shakeout, it was not happy. And so I was like, oh no, like, is it going to feel like this for the 25K that I'm about to run? And I was, my coach basically told Nicole's like, just wait until tomorrow and then assess. It's like, I would probably run a base run anyways, and I'm treating this like a base run going into this race because I can't really race it. I just don't have the ability right now because I haven't been doing workouts. And so I get there and I just jogged around a little bit before my race. I keep calling it a race, and it wasn't a race. It was just a try hard effort is what I was calling it leading up to my run. So I get there and I just jog around a little bit and it feels okay. I was trying out some new Nike shoes, the ones that had like the carbon plate in them. So those felt very nice. And so I was just like, I'm gonna be doing a trail run. This will be fine. Like, just enjoy it, be here, but also don't worry about the results. Like, I know it's just like also hard with your ego, just getting into a race and knowing that it's not going to go well and like doing it anyways because you paid for it. I don't know. It's not a good feeling. So, um, so I get into it, start the run, and my Achilles feels fine. Like I can't even feel it. Like this is and okay, of course there's a little bit of adrenaline, but I would have felt like it in my Achilles and in my like mid calf area, and I didn't. So that was great. That was one of the best parts of the whole run, was that I did not feel my Achilles the entire time, which is great. I just like, when I think about racing or running hard, I just like get in my head a little bit. Like at first it's like, okay, this is going to be a run. This will be a run. This will be a run. And then if eventually I like see somebody up there and I'm like, okay, well I can try to catch them. So it was basically a hard effort long run with some epic hills in it. So I guess the only real like workout I could say that I did before was like I had done some like long sustained hills like within a long run before, like really steep hills, which I'm very thankful I had done, because we get into the race and we were told that it was going to be kind of like two separate races. Like one is going to be very easy and tame, but then it has a whole nother personality where it's like really steep and hilly. And so the first part of the race, they were right. It was chill. It's just like a chill run. I'm going to look at my mile split areas because like it will help us. For at the beginning of the run, first mile, you climb 18 feet, but then you descend 241 feet. And then second mile, you climb 29 feet, but then you descend 250 feet. Third mile, you climb 179 feet. You descend 72 feet. And this is rough math because it's just from my watch. And then the fourth mile, you climb 229 feet, and then you descend 87 feet. Then the fifth mile, you climb 486 feet, and then you descend nothing. And then the sixth mile, you climb 82 feet and you descend 113 feet. So this point in the race, like there was a climb, that 486 feet, and then, you know, you're walk climbing. I usually get caught on the climbs. Like I'm not a super strong climber as far as a trail run goes. And so I tried to really focus on that. But I will say, like just before that, when we climbed like 229 feet, I was starting to like being like, oh, we're actually climbing something. Because before that point, you couldn't really feel like the hill, if that makes sense. Like you knew you were climbing because you're like elevated breath, but like, or your breathing started to go up and your heart rate started to go up, but you didn't know like, okay, I'm climbing something until this like fifth mile where it was like 486 feet. And then I'm like, you're looking straight up basically. And then everybody was walking at that point. Okay, so then on the 6th mile where we go 82, we drop down 82 feet, and then we climb 82 feet, we drop down 113 feet. The 7th mile, we climb 77 feet, we drop down 54 feet, and then 8th mile, so this is pretty flat, that 7th mile, and then 8th mile, we climb 57 feet, and then we're going down 314 feet. And then the 9th mile, we're climbing 110 feet and down 311 feet. So we had quite a bit of a like descent there. But then on the 10th mile, we climb 915 feet and descend 69 feet. So it was like definitely you could feel that was a very steep area. Like it was just like up. I wish I kind of tried poles like to use to run in that area. Like my friend who is really into trail racing didn't use poles, but I was just wondering, like, I wonder if that would have been a good just to practice at that point because I've never used them before. And then The 11th mile climbed 661 feet and descended 374 feet. And then the 12th mile, we climbed 689 feet and descended 28. And then after that point, we're descending. Okay, so the 13th mile is descending. So we're descending or climbing 107 feet, descending 451 feet. And then the 14th mile, we are climbing nothing, and we descended 784 feet. So then we're going down quite a bit. The unfortunate thing was, because I had not actually trained a ton, I hadn't trained a ton like going downhill either. So I think that also I got like slowed down because I just didn't have that turnover that I would normally have. I just didn't have that other gear, essentially, just because I hadn't been doing workouts, which is why workouts are important. And then the 15th mile, we climb like 17 feet, but then we're descending another 331 feet. And then it was like 15.88 miles. So, for my watch anyways. And so it says we climbed 107 feet and then we descended 199 feet. So quite a hilly race. I chose this race specifically because I thought that I would be in better shape. I picked it because it was a challenging course. And I thought, okay, I'm not super strong on hills. This is a really hilly course. Let's do it. Also, I forgot to mention that my friend and coach, Nicole, was also doing this race with me. She was not like alongside me, but she was there on the course. So it felt nice to have her there. And she was working through the trail as well at the same time I was. So I was like, okay, we're both doing this together. So that was like a nice reminder when it got hard. Okay, so how I felt during the race, other than my Achilles not bothering me, it was just like, to be honest, I got really frustrated at the hills. Like I just felt like they were so steep and I just wasn't doing really well or how I wanted to run. And it was very, I don't know, you just get in this mindset, having competed for a long time, that like you should be trying to do your best. And I just like couldn't do my best. And it was very challenging. I had a couple of people like talk to you in the run, which is great. I mean, one of them was super helpful because he was like super positive, and it was like one of the hardest parts of the course. And I think they knew that because there was like these signs that were the lyrics to what's that, the Don't Stop Believing song. Anyways, they were like on the tree. And it was like, it was nice because it was like, I was like reading it like it was like this really important race information, but it was just like the lyrics to like, don't stop believe. Okay, anyways, so it was that song, and it was like on this steep part of the course, and I just was like, okay, well, you know, this, I should just be thankful that my Achilles weren't bothering me this whole time, and that I felt decent. And I've also been a lot more appreciative of my body doing things because like so much of the time it doesn't feel very good. So yeah, I thought the race mentally, it went okay. I got a little confused on a couple parts of the course. The turn, they had like this weird turnaround thing, almost ran off a side of a cliff. Not surprising if you know me. But it was just like a turnaround. So I like looked off and I was like, oh, there's the edge of a cliff. And then I turned around and tried to run the other way. I was like, that's also an edge of a cliff. And then I turned around and actually read the sign that was on the ground. So that was confusing. And then I was not super confident when I went back down that section of the trail that I was going the right way. That was like around Mount Zion area. And then, like it was like around the summit. Like, I just wasn't sure. So you don't want to start going downhill and be like, I'm going the wrong way. I have to go back up, especially after all of that climbing. And so then the only other part is my brain keep being like, okay, were you supposed to turn onto that trail? Were you supposed to turn onto that trail? And like, there wasn't quite enough markers. At the finish, there was a sign that was like pointing left, and then I could still see, like, if I went past that sign, that there was streamers that I was supposed to be following, and I turned left anyways because I was like, I think the sign is more important than the streamers, but it was just a guess. So I wish I would have known that, because I probably would have kicked it in a little bit harder the last bit, because I just wasn't sure. And because I wasn't sure, my body was like, I'm tired, that kind of thing. And then the finish was okay. Again, it was a good experience for me. Any run is a good experience, and it's like you're learning something different. Like, that was a hard course. My body was, able to complete it, and it learned from that. Like, my body will now remember what that felt like, and like if I encounter it in a 50K, like I can use that, body knowledge to, push through that. It also made me like want to be able to learn how to use poles to see if that would help me. I also want to work on like just learning how to climb better. Like, I felt like I was walking and pushing my legs and stuff. I was trying that, tried my hands on my hips, tried a bunch of different things, but I just feel like I wasn't like totally engaging my glutes and pressing down and pressing through. Like, I just felt like I was I felt like I was almost like, it would be better if I crawl, like I just didn't have like power in that section. I don't know how to describe it better. I think the lowest point of the race, to be honest, was probably in that hill section. Just because I felt like we were climbing a lot, and I felt like my brain kind of like was having a hard time being strong in those sections. And I was trying to be strong in those sections, but I just felt like I just didn't have that like fight in you. Like, I don't know. It was like almost like I was giving up in those kinds of sections, if I'm going to be really honest. Like, I felt like it was like but I wasn't going to race it anyway. So I'm like, in my head, I let myself go a little slower, I would say. But it also could be, because I am often mean to myself in my head, is that I just couldn't go faster in that section either. So I'm going to say that I tried my best, and that was what happened. And then like post race, I got done, and because I've been racing 50Ks, I'm used to that like deep ache in your legs, and I just didn't feel that. So it felt like I definitely was sore the next couple days and week. I mean, it took a while to feel better, but I felt like after I got done, I thought I got third, but I think I ended up getting fourth, which is okay. It's fine. Everything's fine. Everyone is fine. I just feel a certain way when I see like my percentage on whatever thing, the ultra thing, but it doesn't matter. It's fine. Everything is fine. I just can't overanalyze it in my brain too much, because then it won't be fun anymore, and then it's like, why are we doing this if it's not fun? Also, is it better not to do something just because you're worried about your race outcome? Like, is it better to not have an experience opposed to having an experience? I feel like it's better to have an experience than just to be like, oh, well, I know I'm not going to do well in this, so I probably shouldn't even show up. Like, that's kind of a bad attitude, in my opinion. So I think the harder thing for me was to show up and like just put myself in a race when I'm not ready for it, and be like, okay, everybody else, I'm going to be out here in a race, not ready. Which I know some people like are like looked down upon, but I paid for it. I wanted to show up. I wanted to do it. So, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad it put me in a race. Now I feel like I can do some workouts. Like, those are my post-run thoughts. I'm like, okay, my Achilles felt better. I can do some workouts. Let's see what happens next. I'm also like just thinking about things holistically. It's like, well, who knows how much longer I can like really push myself like this. Like, I might as well keep trying while I can. Like, I just because of that whole thing happened with my appendix, and like how I was so healthy and great, and then I was so sick, like I just don't want to get to that point where I'm there again and I'm like, okay, well, I could have done these other things, but I didn't want to because I just wasn't at my peak, like it's really stupid. So I was like, okay, ultimately, outcome was the outcome. It wasn't about the outcome. It was about putting myself in a race. I did that, accomplished it, great. And then the woman that I raced against like did their best, and I'm not taking anything away from them, so awesome job to them. I hope to be in another race soon that I can actually race. I was quite sore from the downhills after, which is to be expected. It's like you always are more sore from the downhill than the climb. At least I am, because you just don't do sustained downhill running that often. Where I feel like I do sustained uphill running quite often, or try to at least. I'm always trying to work on my climbing abilities. And then what other takeaways do I have? I mean, it was cool to see friends. Like I said, my friend was like the ambassador for the race, so it was good to see them and be around trail running culture again, which was always very great. They did a great job at the venue, like the trail race director, who I should shout out. So let me see if I can find out what company it was. Okay, so the trail race was put on by Jen and Richard, who are the race directors. And they combined experience 170 trail races. So short to 100-mile mountain races. That's so cool. I only met Jen, or talked to Jen, and she was very nice. So definitely Everlong Endurance for creating the Olympic mountain. Everlong Endurance, I think, is their company name. Yeah, anyways, sorry. Now I'm on a trail race website and I'm going to get very distracted. But overall, like, trail races are great because like you can be on the course in like a new place that you've never been before, and it's safe. You're around people. You get to explore and do the course. And yes, you can trail race, you can push yourself, but you can also take it as an adventure as well. As hard as it is, if you are a competitive person, to do that, it is also a nice way to, see a new place in a safe environment. So, definitely recommend. The trail racing community is like really kind for the most part. Like, there's some people for every community that's not nice, and overall, like, great experience. A period of growth for me. Okay, so things I would like to do differently, like moving forward, would be like doing workouts, number one. And then I guess I didn't really talk about nutrition or anything like that, but I brought the Cliff Blocks, and I brought enough for a 3-hour run. I was over, I was like 3:13 for my run, which I would say is not, as far as time goes, it's not too far off what I thought. I was like 3 hours. A little bit optimistic on those hills before I ran them, so that was fine. But I had enough nutrition. I brought enough for 3.5 hours, because it was like I only ate like half a pack each time. And then I had water, which I was craving water, so I'm really glad that I had it, and not some kind of drink. mix because that's gross sometimes. And then I felt pretty good from that. Also, again, like wasn't pushing my body super hard other than my muscles up and down hills, but it wasn't like super taxing on me. So I didn't really need a ton of other calories. And then overall, I think that was a good enough amount. Oh, and I had like, as far as water goes, I had a little bit less than a liter. I kind of dumped it out because my like bladder can carry 2 liters and they recommended you have 2 liters, but I think that was for the 100K runners. So I had filled it all the way up, but then like was slowly like milking myself. I was slowly squeezing out the water. And then just because I knew I was carrying too much. And I didn't use any of the aid stations. And they were in good spots, I would say, if you're worried about that. They were at like the 5 mile. You can look online, but it wasn't. They were all the places that I would have wanted to stop if I did, because they were spaced out correctly, I think, especially for a 25K. And then, yeah, post race was fun. They had burritos and like chips and stuff and pop, all the things that you would want after a race. Yeah, overall it was a really good experience and something that I'll continue to work on as a competitive person, trying to just enjoy things. Sometimes I like that part of my personality. Like I don't want to not be a competitive person. I think it's okay. But I also don't want to do it to the point where things aren't fun, So overall, great experience. All right. Well, thank you for listening to another race report. I hope this helps like update you on where I am. I would love to hear what you're working on. As far as my climbing has been going, I haven't been climbing a ton. I coach cross country in the fall, so it's hard to do running and climbing and coaching all at once and working full time. So it's a little less climbing in the fall. But I hope to be doing that more so soon. I also, climbing and an Achilles issue is not a good partnership. So that's another reason why I haven't been climbing as much. But I hope to do it soon. And then I hope to also do some more like yoga and mobility and things like that. All the things that we think aren't as important, but are the most important. I can say that because I know that to be true. But also I have a really hard time doing that. So no judgment if that is something you struggle with, because I also do. And trying to get enough sleep and iron and water and all the things. So, one funny thing that I realized that I do is like when I'm racing, I have these like really like old school like idioms or like, I don't know, phrases from the Midwest that like, because I grew up in Michigan, and I just realized that I like say them to myself all the time, which is like, one of them is like, I have a hitch in my giddy up. Going ass over tea kettle down a hill, like when you fall down. I'm like, I don't want to go ass over tea kettle. That's just like what I say to myself. And then what's another one? Yeah. Oh, my get up and go has got up and went. But just like these random phrases that I go through my brain when I'm racing. That I just, it's funny. Okay. So if that brings you any joy, I hope that it does. I guess my words of empowerment is, for this episode, is like, don't define yourself by the things that you don't do. Define yourself by the things you do and make them awesome things. So that's all I have for today. If you are listening to this podcast and you want to watch the video version, you can watch it on YouTube. You Are Sportswear is our YouTube channel. So go there and subscribe. If you are wanting to follow me personally, that's at Jacalyn Gross, JacalynGross is my handle on pretty much everywhere. If you want to follow Your Sportswear, that's the letter U, the letter R, Sportswear on all social platforms. If you want to check out any of our products, you can go to yoursportswear.com. Both the audio and video version of this podcast was produced by Jeremy Canaria and edited by me. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this helps you work through something that you're working on right now. And I hope you get out there and adventure. Thanks for listening.